Brought to you by Penguin.
Fuel. Written and read by Seán O'Brien. Prologue, the 11th May 2019. We lost. I was home in bed by 2:30 a.m. There was nothing to celebrate. Saracens were champions of Europe. We'd already begun to talk about Munster. We'd lost one final, and we didn't want to feel like that a second time. I was pretty sore when I woke up the next morning, so I went into Riverview for a quick swim. It had been a constant fight with my right hip. I can't even begin to explain some of the evenings, and especially the nights, I've had with this. Breaking down crying with pain, breaking down in front of Sarah after coming home from training. For 2 years this hip had been the bane of my life. It had put me in bad form with everyone. All I wanted to do was train and play to the best of my ability, and I couldn't. Matters came to a head the week after the defeat in the Champions Cup final. I'd taken a kick or stamp on my right calf during the game. It had made my hip very angry. The resulting hematoma in my calf meant everything was going through my hip and glute. On the Monday I began doing what I usually do at the start of the week between games. I got my hip moving and had a bit of physio. But I couldn't even manage the unit sessions with the forwards on the Monday or Tuesday, never mind the full squad run. On the Tuesday, I walked into UCD with a limp. It was purely because of my hip. There was nothing else wrong with me. That morning, our rehab physio, Fergal Kiernan, who worked with me every single morning, looked at me and shook his head. I said to him, "Yeah, I know. This isn't good today at all." He said, "They'll give you until Thursday to get yourself right. Hopefully you'll be good." Later that morning, Leo said to me, "What do you want to do?" "I want to give it until Thursday." "Grand," he said. A1, whatever you want to do. I desperately wanted to play against Munster in the league semi-final. It would be my last game for Leinster at the RDS, potentially my last game in Ireland. This would be my final moment in the jersey I loved, and I wanted to live it. After the pool on Tuesday, I did a stretch. That evening at home I used a foam roller and had a massage machine on me for a few hours. I stayed at home on Wednesday repeating that process with the massage machine. I loosened myself out and was pain-free for the day. Pain kept me awake most nights, and that was worrying me because it meant I wasn't recovering well. I'd often be awake for 2 hours or more in the middle of the night. I'd maybe prop 2 pillows under my knee, which would bend my knee up a little and ease the pain. Then I might drift off. Sometimes I'd sleep on my back, sometimes on my side with my knees bent to relieve the pain. In recent years, I'd set the alarm on my phone for 6:50 a.m. because I was always in Leinster Training Centre in UCD for 7:30 a.m. to work with Fergal. My body clock usually woke me up about 5 minutes before the alarm went off anyway. Some mornings I'd wake up at 6:45 a.m. in a state of panic, convinced I'd slept through the alarm. Waking up and getting out of bed, I usually knew straight away what kind of day it was going to be. I'd invariably have an ache. It just depended how bad it was. Some mornings it was worse than others, or it could get worse when I started walking around. On the Thursday morning before the Munster game, it was a very mild ache. Barely there, but there all the same. At least I felt a good deal better than I had on the previous 3 mornings. I went to UCD for 7:30 a.m. and did my rehab with Fergal for about 45 minutes. Fergal knew me as well as I knew myself at that stage, and he knew how to deal with me. We got to work. I didn't feel too good doing the single leg bridges to get my glutes and hips switched on. They were making my hip angry. I felt weak. So we stopped them and did stretches and exercise that didn't make it angry. After that, I took my painkillers. We had meetings for a couple of hours and then went out on the training pitch. I didn't feel too bad warming up, although the hip was biting at me every now and again. We started with 20 minutes of unstructured stuff, a game of attack and D in which we alternated between the two. With Munster coming in 3 days' time, training was intense. It was fast, like a game. I was in D for the first few minutes and turned quickly to tackle someone, but just couldn't run. I pulled up. I was going to pull out of the session, but then I reasoned with myself. You're only in the session a couple of minutes. This might warm up again. That was often the case. It could take 15 minutes of movement, but as I'd get into the session and get up to speed, I'd generally be okay. The heat and the adrenaline would loosen it up. About 4 minutes later, one of the backs, I think it was Ringer, made a half break, and I was tracking.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?